Hello, welcome to Literary Yours. I'm your host, Anaya Daravala. Today we'll be talking about novelist Ernest Hemingway. One of the most influential writers in American history as a novelist, short story writer, and journalist, his short declarative style of writing has captured America time and time again. Known as one of the greatest 20th century novelists, Hemingway is known for his countless classics. But what makes his literature so significant? What did Hemingway do to captivate his readers? And what was Hemingway trying to relay through his novels? Hoping to capture his sentiments today, we will be exploring the philosophies of the human condition as reflected in his novel, The Sun Also Rises. Our first guest speaker is Jennifer Ho. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Alright, let's dive right in. In your reading of The Sun Also Rises, what symbols and themes about people and their philosophy do you think Hemingway is trying to get across?
In The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway relays his thoughts that individuals need a purpose to function in life, and explores the results of the loss of meaning through characters that have been hurt by war. Ironically, Hemingway claims to have not purposely implanted symbols into his work and that his novels just come as they are, but critics keep finding them and developing the Hemingway iceberg theory. If you read his works and their criticisms, it's hard to believe his claims, but he himself rejects the notion in his interview.
I suppose there are symbols since critics keep finding them. If you do not mind, I dislike talking about them and being questioned about them. It is hard enough to write books and stories without being asked to explain them as well. Also, it deprives the explainers of work. If 5 or 6 or more good explainers can keep going, why should I interfere with them? Read anything I write for the pleasure of reading it. Whatever else you find will be the measure of what you brought to the reading.
Do you have any examples?
Yes, if we are to ignore his words, Hemingway incorporates many themes in his novels, the most prominent being the aimlessness of the rising generation during the post-war era. Of course, the novel was written post-World War I, and The Sun Also Rises reflects this. In the novel, the war seemingly strips away the hope and morality of those who fought, as well as their family and friends. And this can be seen in a variety of characters, but for the sake of this example, I'm going to start with Brett. Brett is this wild character who sleeps around with men and does not understand or adopt a genuine concept of love, or at least one that's not influenced by physical or superficial means. And closer she is to loving is Jake, the main character, but she's engaged to Mike, yet had a fling with Cohen at some time, and even falls in love with a young bullfighter. But in the novel, we come to realize her inability to not take love so seriously stems from the fact that her true love died during the war. Furthermore, although she portrays herself as an independent and confident woman, she's really wandering around hopelessly without doing anything with her life, and she herself often complains about it. We can see that when her facades break, she is really just a helpless girl who has trauma with love. End result, both Brett and Jake, and really the majority of characters in this novel, fill their vacant lives with escapist activities such as drinking and dancing to forget about their problems and inner struggles. This is a recurring theme in Hemingway's works. For instance, his short story, A Clean, Well-Lighted Place, also revolves around a drunk man and focuses on other people's attitudes towards him. But back on track, in Thomas Foster's Symbolism Extract, he points out how this work mirrors The Sun Also Rises, as it presents a society that has been rendered barren spiritually, morally, and sexually. And I really think that Hemingway used this novel to portray the lost generation and their loss of hope, love, and their inability to ground themselves in the morals that occupied generations before.
And we also have our second guest speaker, Alina Choi. Alina, what do you have to say about this?
I do believe that Hemingway portrayed the void humans feel through the characters in his novel. The aspirations Jake, Robert, and Brett all have yet cannot seem to achieve are all examples of this. However, there are positive factors in his perspective as well. Time and time again, we actually see the efforts of a few characters trying to build themselves back up, which suggests that Hemingway also believed in the persevering nature of mankind.
That's quite interesting. I seem to recall that the main character Jake tries to do this, right?
Yes. For example, Jake takes a trip to San Sebastian in hopes of distancing himself from Brett and starting anew before he returns to France. He organizes his thoughts by the ocean and enjoys activities like swimming, which is a major change from the consistent drinking he does. Despite the injury he has sustained during the World War that fuels many of his problems, Jake still takes the opportunity to attempt to begin a new chapter in his life. Moreover, we also get to see a glimpse of the theme in which something new arises to replace the old. Prominently, we see this through character Pedro Romero. Bullfighting, the sport that Hemingway fell in love with during his trip to Spain in 1923, is rather destructive. It ends with the deaths of the bulls, which actually seems to parallel the loss of hopes of the lost generation. It seems rather bleak, doesn't it? That was a real-life clip from an actual bullfight. However, as I was saying, Hemingway counteracts the negative theme with Matador, Romero. Near the conclusion of the book, when all the characters begin to accept their reality and wander aimlessly, Romero is the only character untouched by the loss of morality. Introduced at the ending of the book, he is part of a new generation, one that is starkly different from the previous, a generation that has hope. Hemingway portrays here a crucial aspect of human condition, the cyclic nature of mankind, in which a generation will always be replaced. Actually, the critic Mark Spilka describes this phenomenon in his article called The Death of Love in The Sun Also Rises. As per Spilka's words, Hemingway believes that the earth indeed abides forever, and if one generation is lost, another comes. And personally, I think his philosophies in The Sun Also Rises reflects his personal experiences. Although his childhood was riddled with misfortunes such as a harsh upbringing from his mother Grace, Hemingway in his adult life tried to make the most of it, as evident through his abundant love life with 4 wives and his move to Key West, which is quite the paradise for him. Overall, I think it's safe to say that although he did have a focus on heroic fatalism in The Sun Also Rises, he wasn't entirely a Debbie Downer. There are so many subtle aspects throughout the book in which he actually shows the themes of perseverance and a new generation filled with hope.
Well, thank you both for sharing such enlightening thoughts with us. It was a pleasure having you here.
And ladies and gentlemen, this will be the ending point of today's discussion. Thank you for anyone who is still here with us. On behalf of Literary Yours, we thank you for your participation. Join us next week as our wonderful experts discuss the aspects of William Faulkner's well-known novel, As I Lay Dying. Thank you and have a nice day.